people here in the administration that there's sort of close to a broad agreement here between the Democrats in the House and Senate and the Senate Republicans along with the White House on the $700 billion package. But the sticking point would be those House Republicans, the conservatives that Jessica Yellen and Bill Bennett were talking about, who are very concerned about some of these provisions. And all eyes now really are on John McCain. John McCain met with some of these Republicans earlier today on Capitol Hill. He came over and brought some of their principles, some of their message over here to this White House meeting to try to sort of explain to the wider group where the opposition on the Hill is. The question now is whether John McCain is going to work hard to kind of bring this group together. Is John McCain going to, in the end, feel like this just can't be bridged and come out in opposition to the deal? All eyes really on McCain a little bit more than Obama in terms of whether or not he's going to bring along some of these House conservatives.
Let me ask Bill Bennett, what do you think John McCain is going to do?
Well, you know what I was thinking, Wolf, when you were talking about Dubai, I was thinking about other McCain initiatives, if you will. Is this the surge in Iraq, or is this the immigration bill? He would hope it's the surge, and he'd be on the positive side. Look, he is back there, as he said, to help get an agreement. So he needs to try to get an agreement. That's why he was visiting with the Republicans, and he will be working it. This is a high-stakes gamble by John McCain, but he certainly will try to get that. What he can't get is a situation where he's siding with the president. 120 conservatives are opposed to him. He's come a long way in this campaign. To lose that support, I think, would be fatal to the campaign.
And we are told, hold on a second, Gloria, we are told that Senator McCain's motorcade has now left the White House. You heard that siren, and you heard Ed Henry say that they were getting ready, the McCain people. So at least, we don't know if the meeting is wrapped up, but it looks like Senator McCain has left that meeting. There's another exit from the West Wing, as opposed to the door that you're seeing right now, where that Marine Guard is standing by. There you see the side road outside the West Wing of the White House, where other vehicles are waiting, including the motorcade for Senator Barack Obama, who'll be going back up to the Hill as well. Gloria, you wanted to weigh in.
Yeah, I hesitate to disagree with Bill Bennett ever, but let me just say that what if McCain were to disagree with those conservative House Republicans? Wouldn't that bolster his independent brand to a certain degree? Wouldn't that help him with independent voters if he says, look, we've got to have a deal. I think it's important. I know you're going to disagree with me, as he did on immigration reform. I think that's a possibility.
Hold that thought for a second, Bill, because Ed Henry's getting some more information. We were hearing, Ed, that Senator McCain has left. What about Senator Obama?
Well, you may have just seen that a group of reporters left right behind me. And among that group was Linda Douglas, a former reporter who's now a media advisor, a spokeswoman for Senator Obama. I spoke to her briefly, and she told me that Senator Obama is leaving the meeting as we speak. The reporters who follow him, the Obama press pool, is also getting ready to leave. And most importantly, she told me he is not going to be making a statement here at the White House cameras. We were given guidance before by the Obama camp before the meeting that Senator Obama would be making some sort of a statement, talking to reporters. I'm now told by Linda Douglas on the record that Senator Obama will not be speaking. I don't want to read into it.
Not speaking at the White House, but he might be speaking someplace else.
Absolutely, he could speak somewhere else. He might be waiting to see where this deal or no deal goes, if you will. But he is not speaking here at the White House, and she did not give me any indication about him speaking anytime soon somewhere else. But obviously, he can go give media interviews or do something. But he is no longer going to speak here, and he is about to leave. The motorcade has not left, but she said he'll be leaving in the next couple of moments.
And we're waiting for other members, other people who participated in that meeting at the White House to emerge and come to the stakeout, the microphones that are now underneath the overhang at the West Wing of the White House. All right, Bill, go ahead, and because we interrupted your train of thought when we wanted to get some news from Ed.
Well, I was just going to say to Gloria, I thought we all agreed, all members of the CNN symposium, that first you consolidate your base. You know, when John McCain might have been wooing independence with the immigration issue, but he sure, lost the base on it. Luckily, the base is forgotten, where John McCain has muffled that by talking about securing the borders. But again, think of what John...
All right, hold on a
second.
Hold on a second. We're getting some people coming out.
A series of ongoing discussions. Members have gone back to the Capitol to try and continue to work on this issue. Senator Obama will be taking questions at the Mayflower Hotel in about 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
The House Democrats will have a caucus at 5:45, and we may come out after that and do an avail back at the Capitol. Thanks.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Are you close to an agreement?
Still working on it.
Working on it.
Jim, does that mean things are on unless
We still have a lot of issues to be worked on. We're making progress, but we still have a lot more to do.
A lot more to do, Jim.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, you heard them. Those are the two spokesmen for Harry Reid and for Nancy Pelosi saying they're making progress. They're still working. They're going to be speaking, both of them, but not there, not at the White House. They want to go someplace else and make their statements. And we'll, of course, have cameras wherever they go, and we'll hear what the Speaker of the House and we'll hear what, and we'll also hear what the Senate Majority Leader has to say. I believe we also heard him say that Senator Obama will be making his statement over at the Mayflower Hotel on Connecticut Avenue, only a few blocks away from the White House. Should take a motorcade about 60 seconds to drive from the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue over to the Mayflower Hotel. So we'll hear from Senator Obama at the Mayflower Hotel. We'll hear from the Speaker. We'll also hear from the Senate Majority Leader. Let me go back to Donna Brazil. You know these players. Donna, you've known them for a long time, and I can only say the stakes for the country, the stakes for millions of Americans are enormous, but the political stakes for these two presidential candidates right now are enormous as well.
Well, it looks like there was a deal last night, early this morning. John McCain rode into town after the deal was made, and now the Republicans are in, turmoil. And so I think what needs to happen at this point is someone needs to go and have a caucus with the Republicans and see if they want a deal. This is, after all, a bill that Secretary Paulson put forward. The Democrats are working with Secretary Paulson and the Bush administration. But if John McCain doesn't like this deal and the Republicans, and they are prepared to come up with an alternative, I think someone needs to explain that to Secretary Paulson, because Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid got the Democrats on board to try to come up with a deal.
I want everybody to stand by. We know that the Vice President, Dick Cheney, he went up and met with a lot of these conservative members of the House. He certainly has a lot of credibility. He's well liked by a lot of them, but apparently that meeting did not necessarily go all that well. We're following the breaking news. We're not going to be leaving this story, but I want to check in with Jack. He's got the Cafferty file. Jack, this is a pretty dramatic day.
There's a chorus of voices suggesting we should all be very afraid. President Bush, our entire economy's in danger. Treasury Secretary Paulson, the average American should be scared. Warren Buffett called the turmoil in the markets the economic equivalent of Pearl Harbor. And former General Electric Chairman Jack Welch said America's in for one hell of a deep downturn. Not exactly the easiest climate for the next president to start his new job in, and yet these two men, Senator John McCain, Senator Barack Obama, still want the job badly. John McCain announced late yesterday he's suspending his campaign, rushed back to Washington. He called for tomorrow's debate with Obama to be postponed. Obama and McCain put out a joint statement calling for a bipartisan effort to deal with the crisis. Bailout talks continue, as you've heard if you've been watching CNN here the last hour or so. Soon, though, it'll be back to the campaign trail for both Obama and McCain, both of them trying to convince us he knows more about fixing this mess than the other guy. Question is, has the deepening financial crisis changed your mind on who to vote for president? CNN.com/Cafferty Files, where you'll find my blog. Wolf.
All right, Jack, stand by. We're going to be getting back to you. We're about to speak with one of the leaders, the Democratic leaders, who was inside that meeting in the West Wing of the White House, Steny Hoyer. He's the majority leader in the House of Representatives. He's walking over to our microphones over on the North Lawn of the White House. We'll go there and get his eyewitness account, his first-person account of what has been going on inside the West Wing of the White House momentarily. Gloria, as we await Steny Hoyer, you got to think about the history, that this is a moment in American history. Bill Bennett knows a lot about American history, where the country could be moving in two very different directions based on what the elected leadership comes up with.
Yeah, and it's an amazing dynamic to think of inside that room, because you have a Republican president who's been laissez-faire on the markets, arguing for a big government bailout or rescue or whatever you want to call it. You have the Democrats siding with him reluctantly, Republicans like Senator Shelby of Alabama angry about it, and then you have the two presidential candidates there who may or may not meet tomorrow night in a debate to take sides in this, one of whom has promised to get this to get this done. It's incredible tension in that meeting, I would think, Wolf.
I want everybody to stand by because the House Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, has been mic'd that he's joining us now live. You were inside, Mr. Leader, inside that room. Take us inside and tell us, first of all, deal or no deal?
Well, I think it was not a negotiating session. I think it was a reiteration of how serious this problem is. I think it was bringing everybody up to date on where people were. I think Chairman Dodd and Chairman Frank clearly indicated that they thought we were very close on principles. Clearly, everybody in the room was not necessarily in agreement, but the President made it very clear, and the Speaker and Harry Reid both made it very clear that we're working very hard to come to an agreement and work very closely with Secretary Paulson and Ben Bernanke. We realize there's a crisis. We realize that doing this correctly is critical, but also doing it soon is critical.
Well, about 15 minutes or so ago, we heard from Senator Richard Shelby of Alabama, the ranking minority member on the Senate Banking Committee, say there is no agreement, and he's deeply concerned, as you know, about the possibility of an agreement. But go ahead and tell us what the stumbling blocks are right now and when you think they might be resolved.
Well, I'm not going to go into specific stumbling blocks, but I think there are obviously, there's not full agreement. Senator Shelby did not fully agree, as you pointed out and heard, I suppose. But there were other segments in the House. Obviously, there was concern on both sides of the aisle. So that's being worked on. But we're very concerned about some plans that have been put forward very recently. Secretary Paulson has not reviewed those plans, and not part of his plan. We've modified his plan very substantially. The President last night said he accepted our modifications, which were designed to protect stockholders, provide for equity involvement, provide for protection of mortgage holders, and provide for protection for taxpayers ultimately as well. So that we think that there, certainly from our side, that there is a consensus on how to go forward. We'll have to see whether that consensus can grow.
As you know, the
President hopefully is going to be working on that.
As you know, the Congress is supposed to go into recess tomorrow night. Is that happening? You think there'll be a deal that will allow members of the Senate and the House to vote before tomorrow night?
Wolf, let me reiterate what I've said to my caucus. As you know, I make up the schedule, and what I've told them is that this is a very serious matter. Members of Congress are going to be prepared to stay here Saturday, Sunday, next week, the week after, if that's necessary. Hopefully that will not be necessary. We believe that acting with dispatch is necessary to stabilize markets, stabilize our economy, and we hope to do that. But we have no arbitrary deadline as to when we're going home.
Tell us, take us in, if you can, take us inside that cabinet room. We know that Senator McCain was there. We know Senator Obama was inside. Did they participate in this discussion, or was mostly the president talking and others sort of just asking questions? Give us a little flavor, if you can, Mr. Leader, on what was going on.
Wolf, I think it was like most meetings. Everybody participated, including Senator Obama and Senator McCain. I think Senator Obama, very frankly, was more specific and broader in his discussion with the President, with Secretary Paulson, had some very good contributions to make. Senator McCain was much briefer, much less specific, and indicated obviously that there was a crisis with which we all agreed.
And what about Senator McCain? Did he indicate one way or another which way he was leaning?
He did not.
Did you get a sense that there might be an agreement by tomorrow that would allow him to participate in the first presidential debate in Mississippi tomorrow night?
Well, I would think that, I would hope that Senator McCain would participate in the debate, go forward. The President made a wry observation, and others made wry observations about Senator McCain and Senator Obama obviously have been otherwise focused, as we would expect them to be. Having said that, both Republicans and Democrats since last Thursday night have been working round the clock to try to come to an agreement, to try to act on a consensus document that can get the votes for passage and stabilize the economic markets. So I think that they will continue to do that, and hopefully we will accomplish that objective.
Are you close to working out the language on executive compensation for Wall Street CEOs and top executives on Wall Street, that their salaries are not going to be in the millions and millions of dollars, but closer to what you as a leader in the House of Representatives earns?
Wolf, we had made the proposal, as you know, very shortly after the recommendation came down, or the bill came down from Secretary Paulson, that there had to be the addressing of benefits and compensation for those who were leading these institutions, which the taxpayer was going to invest in and try to help stabilize those. And we didn't feel it was fair to the taxpayer to have compensation of the kinds that we have seen in the multi-millions of dollars and payouts to people with the golden parachutes, that there needed to be restraints. The administration, Secretary Paulson originally thought that might not be a good idea, but has agreed to that. And as you heard President Bush last night say, he agreed to that. They've also agreed to our suggestion that there needed to be a strong oversight board to ensure that there was an oversight of the Secretary's action, not because we don't trust the Secretary, but because we think the American people putting up this kind of investment need to have some other eyes watching the store. So that we've made a number of suggestions. The President has adopted those and accepted them, and we're pleased at that, and we're still moving forward. We're hopeful that we can reach agreement.
Good luck, Mr. Leader.
Great, thanks a lot,
Steny Hoyer is the House Majority Leader. You've seen pictures of the historic meeting, now revealing details of what happened from another guest. Ed Gillespie is counselor to President Bush. He's standing by to join us live. Also, Governor Sarah Palin again breaks her silence on answering questions, but there's at least one question she couldn't answer. And the debate over the debate. Will we see Barack Obama and John McCain face off tomorrow night in Mississippi? Or will Senator McCain insist on not attending? We're updating you on all the breaking news right here in the Situation Room.
Meet Bob Kearns, inventor of the intermittent windshield wiper.
It's such a simple idea. Where did you do your research?
My basement.
A man with a unique invention.
Maybe this is the one.
Ford is very interested. Why, Ford? Wow, they want it.
A company who would do anything to get it.
We're going to need a working unit from you. Okay. They want out, Bob. Who wants out? Ford.
Out. They have the unit. And they looked at my work. An American dream.
That is my design.
He would never give up.
They took this from us.
Flash of Genius is a remarkable and inspiring true story.
Ford does not know the meaning of years or money.
This is about right and wrong, and you know it.
About a man with unbelievable grit, determination, and heart.
Ford wants to offer your family $30 million.
Do they admit it was my invention?
No.
Don't do it, Dad.
You'll be rooting for him all the way.
It's just a windshield wiper.
To you, maybe. To me, it's the Mona Lisa.
Flash of Genius. Rated PG-13. October 3rd.
Closed captioning hours provided by Vonage. For a better way to phone, call 877-4Vonage.
How much can you save on your phone bill with Vonage? Vonage saves you up to $300 a year. Call 877-4Vonage or go online to 4Vonage.com.
Millions of Americans used to think they couldn't afford their prescriptions month in and month out, that they'd have to cut back or go without their medications altogether. Then they asked us for a second opinion. The Walmart prescription drug program has saved Americans $1 billion in just over a year. It's another way we're working to make quality health care affordable and accessible for everyone. Save money. Live better. Walmart.
It's a lovely day to be together.
What are you going to miss when you have an allergy attack? Benadryl is more effective than the leading allergy medicine at relieving your worst symptoms, like runny nose, sneezing, and watery eyes, and works when you need it most. Benadryl, you can't pause life. And for allergy symptoms with congestion, Benadryl D relieves your allergies and your sinus congestion.
I'm not perfect. I'm large. I leak. I was running out all the time. They got tired of me, and I I got Norritzed.
Send your old tank packing. Space-saving Norritz tankless gas water heaters heat only the water you use, endlessly, efficiently. Save on your water heating bills and never run out of hot water.
Go my way.
When your tank breaks down, don't just replace it. Get Norritz with the world's leading brand of tankless gas water heaters. Go to norritz.com/TV to learn more. Norritz, always hot.
It's an event that will certainly go down in American history. President Bush and the two presidential candidates holding an emergency meeting over at the White House on the financial crisis. Also along the congressional leaders, Democrats and Republicans, and indeed only moments ago they wrapped up that meeting on the $700 billion proposed Wall Street bailout plan, or as some are calling it, a national rescue plan. We're waiting to hear from both of the candidates, McCain and Obama. They're expected to both speak shortly. We'll go there live once we hear from them. We're covering all angles of this story, but let's go back to the White House right now. Ed Gillespie is a counselor to President Bush. He was inside the meeting, one of his senior advisors. Ed, thanks very much for coming in. How did it go?
Thank you, Wolf. It was a good meeting. Look, these members of Congress, the leaders, the two parties' nominees, the President of the United States and his Treasury Secretary, all understand that we have a crisis in this country right now in our financial markets that can spread to the economy, and we need to come together and act to solve that. There are, not surprisingly, different points of view and in terms of how some things that ought to be taken into account to do that and how to go about that. But, you know, Wolf, having worked on Capitol Hill for a long time, having worked here, the biggest thing that you have to come to terms is we've got to act, and we have a problem here that needs to be solved. And there was no doubt about it in that room today, and that should be encouraging to people. So
is there an emerging consensus among the Democrats and the Republicans? In other words, are you close to a deal?
We're getting closer, and I think that, you know, as the president mentioned last night, well, if there were things that were not in the package that were put forward by the Treasury Department and by the president, this administration, in terms of the rescue plan, that leaders in Congress on both sides of the aisle, frankly, said you've got to have, for example, bipartisan oversight. Fair point, and they were right about that, and we've accepted that premise. They said, you know, this is not a pure free market. The fact is, if people are going to be failed executives are going to be helped and their companies saved by virtue of the federal government coming in and taking over that company, then these failed executives shouldn't get the benefit of a windfall from the taxpayers. That's a legitimate point, and we have come to share that point of view. So there's been a lot of give and a lot of take in this process. There's some more that has to be done. I believe this is one of those bills where it's going to take probably, you know, half of the House Republicans and half of the House Democrats to come together. Got to get 60 votes in the Senate for just about anything. And so it's going to be a consensus plan at the end of the day, but I think it will be one that meets these principles of removing these illiquid assets off the books of private companies in a way that they don't contaminate the credit markets, that harm college loans or auto loans or 401k funds and or lose jobs.
It seems to me, Ed, you have bigger problems right now with some of the conservative Republicans, especially in the House, than you have with the Democrats in the Senate or the House. Is that right?
Look, there are both sides are going to have to work hard to get to an agreement that will fix the problem, as the president was clear. You know, the goal here is not to pass a bill. The goal here is to fix a problem and to address a looming crisis. And if Secretary Paulson, Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke sees something that they say will do it, then the president will be supportive and our administration will support it. We believe we'll get Republican and Democratic votes for it. We think that we put forward a plan that does those things, but we are open to hearing other ideas and tweaks to that or changes to it. So I think that both sides have some work to do in order to get it there. But look, as the president said, Wolf, if you're a free market Republican, your first instinct is not for government intervention. But the fact is, in this instance, that is what's warranted in order to make sure that those who were not irresponsible or acted responsibly are not harmed by the irresponsible actions of others.
Senator Obama has laid out 4 conditions that he'd like to see attached to this proposed legislation, and I think you're close on almost all of them. We'll put them up on the screen. A payback plan for taxpayers, bipartisan board to oversee the bailout, limits on money for Wall Street executives, and aid to struggling homeowners. 2 and 3, I think you've basically worked out. What about to make sure that the taxpayers have an equity position, if you will, in these firms that are being bailed out by U.S. taxpayers?
Yeah, that's been raised, Wolf. We think that there are instances where that will work, from what I understand from the economists, and that is, again, that's one of those ideas that we're open to. Senator Obama has that point of view, as do many others, by the way. And look, it's important to understand something about this, because and maybe I've done a bad job in my job, my position here at the White House, or others. We haven't made clear. We're talking up to $700 billion, but this is not just money going out. There's going to be money that comes back in. These are in assets, largely in mortgage securities, and most Americans, about 94%, pay their mortgages. And so we're going to get that money. It's going to come back in. In fact, some say that the Treasury could actually get more money than the $700 billion, that this could be something where money could go, to help fund programs or deficit reduction or tax relief if it goes, the return goes above 700. So this is not going to be a $700 billion cost to the taxpayers. It's going to be much, much less than that, maybe even zero, and maybe even a return to taxpayers before the end of the day.
Well, that would be pretty amazing, but we can only hope for that.
I'm not, by the way, promising that, but that is, economists speculate that could happen.
That would be pretty amazing. What about the fourth point that Obama makes? There's got to be something in there for these millions of American homeowners who are struggling right now. Have you been willing to accept that?
We'd like to know the details of it. There are different ideas that have been proposed, some that could have an adverse economic consequence by raising mortgage rates for first-time home buyers and pricing people out of the market. In other words, if you're going to do something that causes lenders to say, well, I've got to build in higher mortgage rates in order to cover the cost of what the government is imposing, that would have a counterproductive effect at a time we're trying to actually encourage people to buy some of this housing stock. There may be some other ideas in terms of if we go forward and the Treasury Department or the government assume some of these risks and some of these illiquid assets, which are largely mortgage-based, that you could say, well, they should do some things that help the folks who are in those homes stay in those homes. That's in everyone's interest, Wolf. That would be the interest of the government in that instance, because it's not in the government's interest to have a vacant home there. It's in the government's interest to have someone paying the mortgage in the home. Right. So it depends on the details. But look, we need to solve this problem. The president has made clear we're willing to work with Congress, and I want to be clear too. Democratic and Republican leaders in Congress have been clear. They want to work with this administration. I do believe, as the president said last night, this is one of those instances where elected officials will rise to the occasion.
One final question before I let you go. I know you have a lot of work to do. Senator McCain put forward 5 points he wants included in any deal, and several of them are very similar to what Senator Obama is seeking. I'll put them up on the screen. Greater accountability, similar. Path for taxpayers to recover money, that's similar. Greater complete transparency, that's also what Obama would like. He adds no earmarks should be attached to this legislation, and no Wall Street executives should profit unduly from this. All right, on the earmarks, I assume you're on board with Senator McCain on that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with earmarks in this legislation. Of course, it's not being written, but clearly this is not at a time when we're trying to shore up our markets. This is not a time to be trying to slip in some money for your project back home or to get a dam.
Is Senator McCain is Senator McCain with the president on this one?
Is Senator McCain? I'm sorry, Wolf.
Is Senator McCain with the president on this issue?
Look, everyone is in the same place in terms of we have to solve the problem. These principles that you just mentioned, that Senator McCain mentioned, as you noted, Senator Obama has very similar and overlapping principles. They're principles that we have accepted in the course of the discussions. Look, remember, this is the legislative process. Members have put forward good ideas. We want to hear more. We want to get it done in a way that fixes the problem, and we think we can do that. So we're all on the same page in terms of fixing this problem, agreeing to many of these principles. Now we're down to the fact of, can we get details that will pass the House, pass the Senate, get through the president's desk, and get signed in a way that helps solve this crisis.
Good luck. Ed Gillespie, thanks very much for joining us. Ed Gillespie is the counselor to President Bush. He was inside that meeting. Let's go back up to Capitol Hill right now. Dana Bash is up there. What are you hearing, Dana, from your sources about what went on during that approximately 1-hour meeting in the West Wing?
Well, what we're hearing actually from Republicans and Democrats was that it was a very, very contentious meeting, actually, Wolf. As you can imagine, though, the different parties are giving us different reasons why they thought it was contentious. I spoke with a Republican source who put the blame on Harry Reid and put the blame on Congressman Barney Frank, who's the chairman of the House Banking Committee, saying that they were dug in on their position. However, we are also talking to Democrats. Ed Henry is talking to Democratic sources. I am as well, saying, in fact, one Democratic source said it was basically a 1 or 2 hour distraction what happened in there. And what Democrats are saying is that House Minority Leader, John Boehner, he came in there and he was voicing the opposition that we've been reporting on for the past couple of hours that House Republicans have to this particular piece of legislation, and that, according to one Democratic source that our Ed Henry spoke with, that actually ended up quote unquote blowing up the meeting because of this conservative opposition. Democrats who were in this meeting felt that these are issues that they had been going over and over and over inside these negotiations, that they thought that they had worked out with the House Republicans, but the House Republican leader made very clear inside this meeting that he did not think it was worked out, and therefore it ended up, all sides are telling us behind the scenes that this is a pretty contentious meeting that went on inside that White House.
All right, Dana, and there's no word yet from the McCain camp on whether or not Senator McCain will or will not go to that first presidential debate tomorrow night in Mississippi?
There still isn't. As we talked about earlier, Wolf, they were hoping that there was going to be some resolution that came out of this, at least by the end of the day, that would allow them to go to the debate, because politically they have concluded that it is important for McCain to go to the debate as a game changer. They feel like that they need that, but it's really still unclear whether or not he is going to go, because he put that line in the sand saying that he needs to have a deal before he gets on the plane and goes, and so far it doesn't sound like it's there. No deal, at least not yet. Dana, stand by. We'll be checking back with you. We're hearing that Senator Obama is either getting ready or has just spoken to reporters over at the Mayflower Hotel. We're going to be getting that videotape and get his reaction to what occurred over at the White House at that historic meeting. We're standing by for news right here in the Situation Room. We'll be right back.
What are you doing? Fixing the name. It's fiber none. Looks like one. Well, I know. Put an N there.
Ah, Fiber One Honey Cluster cereal. That's really good.
It tastes good, so there can't be fiber in it.
It's actually got about half a day's worth of fiber.
It says so right in the box. Really? Try it.
Honey, touch of brown sugar, crunchy clusters.
Any cardboard?
Cardboard, no. Delicious, yes.
We should give away free samples.
Get your free samples at fiberone.com. Miracle at St. Anna is one of Spike Lee's best films. Roger Ebert calls it epic. This Friday, you're invited to solve a mystery 40 years in the making. No. You know what? Miracle at St. Anna. Rated R.
Activon for joint pain, muscle pain, arthritis, and backache. Activon, ultra-strength pain relief and a convenient applicator, no messy creams or gels. Activon, applied directly where it hurts for joint pain, muscle pain, arthritis, and backache. Activon, powerful pain relief.
Change? Yeah, politicians promised change and got record gas prices. Terrible economy. Now they're talking welfare again. Big government taking more than half my paycheck. Politicians are playing us for fools. And we're supposed to fall for it again?
Change. Before you fall for it, get the facts. What's it cost? Who pays?
RightChange.com is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Look at this. I'm a free man. I go anywhere I want now and trade. E-Trade Mobile Pro. Right on my BlackBerry. Wait, hang on. Get an email. Oh, what a bad girl. Man. Anyway, you know, I get streaming quotes on it. God, relentless. Hang on a sec. Hey, girl, can I hit you back?
New E-Trade Mobile Pro. Trade stocks, get streaming quotes anytime, anywhere. There are 1,000 new accounts a day at E-Trade.
Yeah, we can do the neutral. It's perfect. There's a couple things. Yeah.
I think so. Please, I'll get this.
Thank you.
Of course.
Was ist das?
Das ist wohl eine Kindergartenkarte.
Auf Fluss.
Good day.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. I think that went well.
Yeah. Let me get this, okay?
If you own your business, own the card that says so. The Gold Card, with rewards to reinvest in your business. American Express Open. Calling all business owners.
All right, we're waiting to hear from Senator Barack Obama. He's either speaking right now or has just spoken to reporters over at the Mayflower Hotel here in Washington. We're waiting for the videotape. As soon as it comes in, we'll share it with you. This will be his first official reaction. His first official reaction to what exactly happened during that approximately 1-hour meeting with President Bush and Senator McCain and the bipartisan congressional leadership over at the White House. As soon as we get his statement, Senator Obama's statement, we'll share it with you. We're also waiting for a reaction from Senator John McCain. What did he think of this meeting? What is he going to do? All that coming up. Stand by. We'll get that information to you as quickly as we can. In the meantime, let's assess what's going on. Donna Brazil is standing by. She's on the phone getting information herself. Paul Begala is with us. Alex Castellanos is with us, and Gloria Borger, all part of the best political team on television. Paul, let me let you weigh in first. We haven't heard from you yet. This is an amazing day that's going on, and it's certainly by no means over yet. And it could go on for days to come, even though Congress is supposed to go into recess tomorrow.
Well, yeah, because you have this overlay of this economic meltdown, or so they tell us, overlaid with the presidential campaign, the political campaign. And as a lot of people worried, Senate Democratic leader, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, it appears that the presence of the presidential candidates was maybe something of a distraction. It looked like they were moving toward a deal earlier today from all of our reporting and also from the sources I've heard from on the Hill. And then in this meeting, it looked like things kind of blew up. I mean, what people who were in the room are telling me is that the Republican leader in the House, John Boehner, started raising issues that seemed to have already been settled in the past. And it did become quite contentious. I think Dana's sources are right. And they get the sense that maybe the Republicans were acting in a way to sort of set this up so maybe McCain could swoop in at the end and be the white knight hero. But the problem is, you know, serious people on the Hill, and I used to work in the House Majority Leader's office back in the day, they like workhorses, not show horses. And this is not John McCain's area of expertise. If this were troop levels in Iraq, he's one of the foremost experts in the Senate, and everyone would listen to him. But frankly, the people who know about the economy are not terribly interested in what John McCain thinks, and I think it has gummed up the deal-making process.
Has it gummed up? Because, you know, there was criticism. The last thing these legislatures need right now, the so-called workhorses, are the two presidential candidates thrown into the mix. That could further complicate the whole negotiation in the midst of this presidential campaign. Alex, what do you think?
Well, I think I'll credit Paul with trying to find some political angle here that will advantage the candidate he's supporting, and I guess that's fine. But I think what's going on here is something a little different. Even Republicans, Paul, are capable of actually being serious and looking at an economic meltdown and putting that first and trying to solve it. It just so happens it's still a little harder to get Republicans to spend $700 billion of the taxpayers' money than it is to get Democrats to do it. And you're seeing, I think, a lot of concern from Republicans out there that are we doing something wisely here? And of course, this is tough for Republicans. What I think they're wrestling with is they're hearing from a lot of folks back home and say, how do we know that we need to do this? And of course, we don't know, and we won't know unless we reject this deal, watch the economy melt down, and then we'll have proof. And of course, we can't afford that. So there's a little bit of Russian roulette going here with the economy. At the end, I think you're going to see everybody come together behind this, but I think it's actually healthy to examine this deal. But the House if the House is burning down, you don't want the firemen to debate the flavor of the water. You want them to put the fire out now.
Let's bring Donna into this conversation as well. Donna, you heard what Alex says. At $700 billion is an enormous amount of money at risk, even though Ed Gillespie, the White House counselor, says maybe some of it, maybe even all of it could be regrouped, if you will, down the road. What's wrong with letting this process go on not only a few more days, maybe even a few weeks? It's an enormous sum of money.
Well, first of all, the Democrats have been negotiating in good faith, and Nancy Pelosi has really, reminded Democrats that this is an opportunity to not just stabilize the markets, but also protect the taxpayers. And so the principles that were agreed upon last night, that John Boehner even signed on to in a joint statement with Nancy Pelosi, are no longer kosher, I guess, for some of the House Republicans. They're in full rebellion mode at this point. And I think what needs to happen is that the Senate, Republicans and Democrats have really come up with a plan that, at least in principle, people have agreed to. Many of them, not all of them. We saw Richard Shelby perhaps it's best now to figure out if you can get a majority with the plan that's been crafted, that was signed on early today before, of course, some last-minute tinkering took place.
All right, guys, stand by, because Chris Dodd, the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, is joining us now live. You were in that meeting, Senator Dodd. Dana Bash, our reporter, says she's hearing it was, quote, contentious. Was it contentious?
Well, that's, you know, yeah, contentious is certainly for a moment or so. I mean,
when you say for a moment or so, what happened?
Well, no, it was a good meeting. The president certainly called upon all of us to respond to this moment, and the Secretary of the Treasury made the point, and Barack Obama laid out the importance of all of this. What threw us off is that all of a sudden there was some new core agreement floating around, which no one had heard of before until we sort of got to the White House, and that was distracting.
Who introduced that?
Well, we're told it came out of the Republican House. We were even told at one point that this was maybe John McCain was floating the idea, that Hank Paulson was considering it, and of course Barney Frank and I, along with Republicans from the House and the Senate, of course, had spent 3 hours this morning working on a different core. We were told for the last 7 days was the core issue that would give the Secretary authority to move to deal with the crisis, but simultaneously protect taxpayers' accountability, deal with the foreclosure issue. All of the things the president mentioned last evening were going to be important as well. What happened here basically, well, if you want an honest appraisal from me, and the thing is, we've been spending a lot of time. I'm tired. I've spent almost seven straight days at this and trying to come up with a workout plan for our economy, a rescue plan. What this looked like to me was a rescue plan for John McCain for 2 hours, and it took us away from the work we're trying to do today. Serious people trying to do serious work to come up with an answer. Not everyone's going to support this, Wolf, I'll tell you. There are going to be people who will not be happy with this, and I understand it. There'll be no parades, no bunting. This is a sad day for the country that we have to be dealing with a crisis like this with the amount of money involved. But I'm convinced, as many are, that the situation is grave, and responsible people need to fashion something that can work and that will enjoy the kind of support of our colleagues. To be distracted for 2 or 3 hours by political theater doesn't help.
Well, in this new so-called core agreement that was just introduced that blindsided you and Barney Frank and some of the others who had been working over these past 7 days, was there a deal breaker in there? Was there any substantive new issue that you couldn't go along with?
Well, I don't even know what it is, and no one could explain it, and Hank Paulson couldn't describe it either. What I'm going to do is go back where I was at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and that is with people like Judd Gregg and Bob Bennett and Bob Corker and Barney Frank and Chuck Schumer, along with Jack Reed and Kent Conrad and Barney Frank and others. We're putting together some principles. They're not agreed to until obviously our caucuses have seen them, but they were principles around which we thought we could bring to our respective caucuses and the Treasury a way to move forward. I'm going to get back on that track again, because I think that's what people want of us. If we're going to do this, we want it done in a responsible way to protect taxpayers, make sure that people on Main Street are going to be as well protected as the crowd on Wall Street. We're going to make sure, for instance, there's no executive compensation here that from greedy people who helped create this problem. So there are ideas there that we continue to work on. My hope is we can get a deal.
When do you think this is going to be resolved? How much more time you think you need? Because you're supposed to go into recess tomorrow, but that might not happen.
No, I don't think it will and shouldn't. And whatever time it takes, again, we all want to move quickly. But I can tell you right now, my colleagues want to get it right as well. And they know that this takes some time to think it through. This is an issue, Wolf, that is not just any old bill we're talking about. The implications of this will be around for years and years to come. And so while speed is important for some, for most of us, getting it right is far more important.
And just to be precise, who introduced that new element in the course of the meeting that resulted in that, quote, contentious moment? Was that John Boehner?
That was a press release or something that came out from House Republicans that indicated they would not accept, I guess, the Hank Paulson core idea, which we've all been working on for 6 days, and it came up with some new core idea, and that John McCain was somehow supportive of it. My view is, look, they need to get their act together, decide what they're for, and then the Secretary needs to decide whether or not he's for it or against it. If he's for that idea, then we got to start all over again. Now, I hope that's not the case, but that seemed to be the intention of some in the room. If they do that, then, of course, we've got a lot longer to go. And if the president's right, the situation is grave and requires speedy action, careful action, but speedy action, then I don't think he's going to get his wish, because I'm certainly not going to sign on to something that just gets raised this afternoon.
And one final question before I let you go, Senator Dodd. The two presidential candidates, did you get the sense, based on what they said in that meeting in the cabinet room in the White House, Barack Obama and John McCain, that both of them are basically with you and Barney Frank and the president when it comes to the enormity of what's going on and the need for a deal right now?
Well, I got the sense that Barack Obama did. And again, he wasn't buying into a final plan here, but he said, look, these principles are important. He accepts the gravity of the situation and believes that we need to act in a bipartisan, responsible fashion. And he is more than willing to be a part of an effort that will achieve that result. I say this, and John McCain's a friend. We've served here together for 22 years. I'm not quite sure what John said at the meeting. He said something, but I'm not sure. He had no indication he was for any particular plan. So I don't know where he is in all of this, quite candidly.
Senator Dodd, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's get back to our analysts right now, and I want to bring in Alex Castellanos. First, Alex, you just heard some strong words there from Senator Chris Dodd, and I wonder if you want to react to what he just said, because he's not sure where John McCain stands.
Well, I think where Republicans are is a little bit in doubt at this moment. As a party, certainly the administration is clear and the House leadership has been clear. But, you know, again, it's just so much easier for Democrats to spend $700 billion in the blink of an eye without looking. It's kind of something perhaps they've grown used to in Washington. You know, Republicans are supposed to be the party that says, hey, let's cut the cards first. Let's take a look at this and see if it works. And obviously there's a little bit of time to do that. You know, it's all right for Barack Obama to come to town to have his 5 principles that he's insisting on, but somehow it's wrong for Republicans to have their principles that they're insisting on. So that's a little bit of unfortunate, I think, political gamesmanship there on the part of Senator Dodd. Everyone understands how serious this is, but it's important that it be done, and done quickly, but done the right way.
All right, what do you think, Paul?
I think what you have is the Democrats are sort of coming into alignment here. Right? They have been calling for, and it looks like from your interview with Ed Gillespie that the White House is coming into alignment with the Democrats, right? That we need to protect taxpayers more. We need to protect homeowners more. We need greater accountability and transparency. And it may be that we need to stretch the money out. I don't think the White House is there, but I think a lot of Democrats are not at all sure we need to write a check for $700 billion. Alex's partisan point notwithstanding, that I don't think most Democrats want to write one big fat check to Hank Paulson and George Bush for $700 billion for the mess that they made. I think the Democrats would rather have it in 3 different tranches, is the word I keep hearing. So the Democrats, I think, are kind of in, unusual for my party, kind of in array. It's the Republicans who are in disarray right now. You have, Chris Dodd named them, some very serious Senate Republicans who really seem to be workhorses on this, not show horses. They seem to be working hard on it. The House Republicans, though, seem to be in great disarray. Is John Boehner, the minority leader of the House, running this? Is Spencer Baucus, the ranking member of the Republican Party on the Banking Committee, is he driving this? And then where is John McCain on this? You got the sense from Senator Dodd, and I hear this from a lot of Democrats, that, that somehow Senator McCain and the House Republicans are kind of gumming up the works here for political grandstanding, and it's making a lot of people in both parties pretty annoyed.
All right, go ahead, Alex, because I think Paul makes a point that I've heard from a lot of Republicans, including Bill Bennett, that the problem the President and the Secretary of the Treasury have is not so much with the Democratic leadership in the House and the Senate, but it's with the Republicans in the House specifically, not necessarily in the Senate.
Wolf, absolutely, and I think that's a fair estimation. Look, getting a Democrat to spend money in Washington, it's like getting an alcoholic to drink a beer. It's not that hard. Getting Republicans to spend, frankly, I've been wondering where these Republicans were. We've been spending like Democrats, I think, for quite a few years in Washington. This happens to be a big amount of money. This happens to be a burden that's going to be imposed on working American taxpayers. And a lot of Republicans are hearing from back home, let's be sure we do this right. Let's be sure we do this the right way. And I think that is in the interest of the public. And again, it's all right, as Paul just said, the Democrats are thinking maybe there's a better way to do this, stretch this out. That's a good topic worthy of debate. Just as the Republican issues that they're raising, is this going to work? Are we going to need more money later? The Republicans are raising some good points here that need to be debated just as well.
Hold on for a moment. I want to check in with Jack Cafferty. He's got the Cafferty file. He's watching all of this unfold as well. Jack, what a day.
The question this hour is, has the deepening financial crisis changed your mind on who to vote for president? Felix in Texas writes, Obama's a class act. The economic hurricane has swept John McCain away. He's running away from a debate he agreed to months ago. This man doesn't get it. By refusing to debate, he is hurting the American people more. Troy in Ohio writes, I've always known who to vote for. This crisis didn't change my mind. Obama's my man, and this country cannot go with a candidate that promises another term of George Bush. I hope the voters don't get it wrong again. Alan says, I'm voting for Nader. The Republicans and Democrats are unsafe at any speed. Satish says, a dumb question. You go with the more experienced person in a time of crisis. I'm voting for John McCain. Ken says, the economic troubles have not changed my vote. My wife and I just bought our first house. Although we're struggling, we think we can recover as a nation if we elect the right leader, and that's Barack Obama. John McCain's antics throughout the campaign have only showed how dangerously out of touch with the American people and reality he really is. Rina writes, we need a president who's calm and collected and doesn't panic. I used to like McCain, but the present economic crisis freaked him out. He's not ready to be president after all. I think he's ready to retire. And Ray in Indiana writes, ever since 1964, I have voted for the lesser of two evils. I will continue with that approach, this time by voting a straight Democratic ticket. If you didn't see your email here, you can go to my blog at cnn.com/Cafferty-File. It might be there. Both.
All right, Jack, thanks very much. And to our viewers, you're in the Situation Room. Happening now, breaking news. Washington confronts the economic crisis. President Bush wraps up his emergency talks with John McCain and Barack Obama and the congressional leadership. We're standing by to hear from Senator Obama, his remarks about the meeting that's coming up. Also, President Bush says he hopes a bailout agreement will be struck soon, but some of his fellow Republicans are saying no deal. And debate drama. Will John McCain share a stage with Barack Obama tomorrow night? The best political team on television, considering all the possibilities. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. It was truly an historic meeting, and we're told a contentious one, at least at one point. In the room with President Bush, congressional leaders, and the two men competing for his job. Nothing less than the future of America's economy and a $700 billion bailout on the line.
One thing the American people have to know is that all of us around the table take this issue very seriously. And we know we've got to get something done as quickly as possible. And this meeting is an attempt to move the process forward. My hope is that we can reach an agreement very shortly.
We're waiting for Senator Barack Obama to go before the cameras, talk about this White House meeting. He's supposed to be doing that right now, and the prospects for a bailout deal. Our correspondents are standing by with the McCain and Obama campaigns on Capitol Hill, over at the White House. Let's go to Ed Henry first. He was the pool reporter inside the cabinet room in the West Wing when they allowed the reporters, the camera crews, to go in. All right, update our viewers, Ed, on what we know right now, because as Dana Bash has been reporting, at least at one point, it became contentious.
That's right, Wolf. It was high drama in the cabinet room. I can tell you when I went in there at the very top, it was obviously all smiles for the cameras. Very brief statement from the president, as you heard there, that was sort of optimistic that a deal could be reached in short order. But I can tell you, I'm also being told, as Dana is, by two sources, one Republican, one Democrat, telling me the meeting was very contentious. A Republican saying it was very pointed and that it ended badly. Basically, that it was friendly at the top. The president went around the room, and there seemed to be sort of broad agreement on four principles. That agreement between the president, the House and Senate Democratic leaders, and the Senate Republican leadership, along with Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson. But that at one point, House Republican leader John Boehner spoke up and basically raised some of those concerns we've been hearing about among his conservative members, and said they may have problems with some of this, and he wanted their proposals to be aired. I'm told that Senator Barack Obama then at one point jumped in and said to Secretary Paulson, how do these conservative concerns fit in with our four principles that we're agreeing on? I'm also told that John Boehner and Secretary Paulson couldn't really explain where it fits in. That's saying basically it was still in flux. And it ended with John Boehner saying basically he needed to go back to his House Republican members on Capitol Hill, have a meeting tonight, and try to get a better readout on where they can go from here. But the bottom line is this deal is nowhere near as close as many people thought, Wolf.
Ed Henry, watching the story for us. I want you to stand by, Ed. Dana Bash is watching it from Capitol Hill. Dana, you're covering the McCain campaign, and you're trying to figure out, as all of us are, where he stands on this sensitive issue. For him, the political stakes obviously quite enormous. All right, give us the latest. What are you hearing?
I just want to add to what Ed Henry was reporting. We've both been obviously talking to sources who were in the room, or at least aides to those who were in the room. And just like he said, we are hearing it was quite contentious. Basically, as you can imagine, we're hearing different reasons from different parties. The House Republican leader, he went into that room after meeting with John McCain here on Capitol Hill, determined, we're told, to voice some of the concerns of those rank and file in his conference. And he did that, and I'm told by an aide to John Boehner that what he did was he gave another proposal, a proposal that would basically be to give $350 billion for this bailout, but then the rest of the money would be some kind of insurance proposal. That is the kind of thing that those fiscal conservatives in the House are pushing for. They feel like that they have been left out of this, and that's why John Boehner did that. That is basically what led to the contentiousness inside that meeting, we were told. Democrats said, wait a minute, we thought we had a deal. We worked it out for the most part on Capitol Hill, and here you are bringing something else into the mix. Democrats are saying politically they believe, Wolf, that the reason why House Republicans are doing this is because they want to give John McCain a little bit of a bite at the apple here politically. As you can imagine, the McCain campaign is saying that's not true.
This has been an extraordinary day for John McCain. Yesterday he announced he's suspending his political campaign. He's going to not go to the first presidential debate tomorrow night in Mississippi unless there's a deal here in Washington. But walk us through what he's been doing on this amazing day.
Well, basically, you know, here in the Russell Rotunda, this is actually the building where John McCain has his office. And the bottom line is we saw something we haven't seen in a long time, and that was John McCain come and work here.
It was just after noon when the campaign trail arrived on Capitol Hill. John McCain back in his Senate office, greeted by his independent friend, Joe Lieberman. But the McCain who used to talk to reporters in the hallways didn't show up.
Not working up. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Not one question, sir?
McCain said he returned to help jumpstart stalled talks over the bailout package to save the economy from total collapse. But as he arrived, congressional negotiations he was not involved in were wrapping up elsewhere in the Capitol, and his fellow Republicans were declaring a tentative agreement.
We will indeed have a plan that can pass the House, pass the Senate, be signed by the President, and bring a sense of certainty to this crisis that is still roiling in the markets.
But McCain had a different mission. With top campaign aides in tow, he got on the underground subway and headed to the House to talk to Republicans there, still not sold on the bailout deal. Behind closed doors, GOP sources say McCain, House Republican leader John Boehner, and others discussed ways to make the measure more appealing to rank-and-file House Republicans who do not think it's the government's role to bail out Wall Street. Soon he was racing back across the Capitol, stopping for nothing, not even cheering tourists surprised to see him. He was going to drop by a quick lunch meeting with some of his fellow Senate Republicans. Much of McCain's 3.5 hours at his day job were spent inside his office, on the phone, trying to get the lay of the land, until he headed to the White House.
Now, it was at that White House meeting that the House Republican leader, as we've been reporting, actually proposed some alternatives that would basically help appeal to some of the rank and file in the Republican and the House Republican Conference. But we're told, Wolf, by several sources, Republicans and Democrats, inside that meeting, John McCain actually didn't say very much.
All right, stand by, Dana, because I know you're working your sources, and we'll get more information for you. And we're also standing by the way, to hear from Senator Barack Obama remarks about the White House meeting, the bailout talks. We'll bring you those remarks as soon as we get those. Candy Crowley is working the story for us as well. She's down in Clearwater Beach, Florida. This is a day where he was supposed to be in Florida preparing for the first debate tomorrow night, but he had to interrupt that to come to Washington and go to this meeting with the president. Update us on what we know right now, Candy.
Well, absolutely, you're right. He wanted to stay here, and then he got that call from the president. Indeed, he left this morning and went up to Washington for that meeting. He left pretty quickly and moved on to a Washington hotel where he is doing a round of television interviews, after which he expects to have a statement and take some questions for reporters. I am told, Wolf, by a campaign aide, that Obama will now spend the night in Washington. Again, that's according to a campaign aide who says he will stay there. Now, we were told before that he probably wouldn't unless there was some reason, maybe a vote that he thought was coming up on this package to stay. So we will have to hear from him exactly what it is that's prompting him to stay tonight. It may just be it's easier to stay there than to come back down here and go to Mississippi for the debate. And by the way, that debate is still on as far as the Obama campaign sees it. They believe very much that it's John McCain who's behind the 8 ball on this, that most people see absolutely no reason not to go ahead with this debate. As Obama put it yesterday, we need to show we can do more than one thing at a time. So if this bailout package reaches some sort of crescendo where the votes are needed, you can bet he will stay there in town. But right now, that debate is still on as far as the Obama campaign is concerned. But again, he is staying in Washington tonight, Wolf.
All right, stand by, Candy. We're going to be getting back to you as well. Even as President Bush was stressing bipartisanship today, members of his own party were throwing up some major roadblocks to striking this deal on this proposed $700 billion bailout. Let's go back to Capitol Hill. Jessica Yellen is working this part of the story. The president, we heard him at the top of the meeting say he was hoping a deal could be reached shortly. What are you hearing, Jessica?
Well, it looks like they're a lot further away now than they were before this meeting began, and it's principally or exclusively because the House Republican conference is in disarray at this point on this measure. And the way you can interpret that depends on who you talk to. On the House Democrat side, there is what I can only describe as fury, frustration. They contend that the House Minority Leader, John Boehner, was on board. He was in agreement. Spencer Bachus, the man who represented House Republicans in the meetings this morning, seemed to be going along with the plan all along. And then they contend, again, the Democrats, that it was only after this became politicized later today that the House Republicans disagreed and decided to break with the plan, and that they contend this is all because McCain has injected presidential politics on this. On the other side, you hear House Republicans saying, look, we've had issues all along. That was no secret. This has been rushed, and we're not ready to sign on. And all sides are having meetings, huddling all over this terrain tonight, Wolf, trying to decide what the next steps are. No matter who I talk to on the phone, they all say, well, we're working that out. We'll get back to you when we know what we're doing next. I can tell you that the Democrats continue to point out this was the president's proposal to begin with, and so they do not want to move forward with this without some House Republicans signed on, at least a good number of them signed on. Their frustration right now, they say the House Republicans aren't even telling them what they really want in this package. So not a lot of communication. The last thing I can tell you is that both Pelosi and Reid apparently pulled Paulson aside afterwards and told Paulson, look, you need to help work this out with the House Republicans. And so they're looking for some more administration aid in all of this and resolving this quickly. Well,
Jessica, stand by on the Hill as well. I want to go to Jack. He's got the Cafferty file. Jack, you know, when they said yesterday this meeting would take place at 4 p.m. Eastern, I immediately said to myself, you know, that's when the markets in New York, the stock markets close at 4 p.m. Eastern. You can only imagine what those markets would be doing right now if they saw this confusion, if they saw this uncertainty right now that was going on. Some people saying close to a deal, others saying not so close to a deal. It would not necessarily be all that positive.
Well, it's not just the markets who were, scratching their heads. I mean, there was a deal earlier. There was agreement earlier, according to just a whole bunch of reports that we saw throughout the day, that both sides had agreed in principle to the framework, the structure of a deal. And now all of a sudden, John Boehner and the House Republicans say, no, we don't agree to the deal, and that only happened after John McCain got involved. I mean, if the bailout package works, it won't come a moment too soon. No guarantee it's going to work, for that matter. President Bush told the nation last night, without quick action, more banks could fail. The stock market could go down even more, which cuts the value of retirement accounts. Home values go into free fall in this environment, which could then lead to a dramatic rise in foreclosures. We have over 1 million of those now. The president said more businesses could fail as a result of this crisis. Millions of Americans could lose their jobs. As it is, first-time unemployment claims came close to a 7-year high this morning. There was some other discouraging economic news as well, a 5% drop in durable goods orders and some other troubling signs that we are slowing way down. Ultimately, the president said the country could experience a long and painful recession. Those are his words. It's comforting, isn't it, that Washington finally decided to get in the game. This is a crisis that's been developing in plain sight ever since the housing bubble burst. People who should never have gotten mortgages are seeing their homes foreclosed on because they can't make their house payments. Ray Charles could have seen that they couldn't make the payments when they applied for the mortgages to begin with, but everybody chose to look the other way because everybody at the time was making lots of money. Let's just hope the government decided to act in time. Here's the question. How's the nation's deepening financial crisis affecting you? CNN.com/Cafferty file. You can post a comment on my blog. Wolf.
Jack, thanks very much. And it's certainly the question virtually all of America wants to know. Will Barack Obama and John McCain actually face off in their first scheduled debate tomorrow night? Will Senator McCain insist on not attending? We're watching this part of the story. And Republicans applaud McCain's acts as true leadership. Democrats say it's all part of a political stunt. You're going to find out what people who know Senator McCain are saying about it. And you maintain the economy is your #1 concern. Will that be the #1 factor influencing your vote in a few weeks? We're also waiting to hear from Senator Barack Obama, his statement coming up on what happened inside the White House earlier today. Lots of news happening, a very busy and historic day right here in Washington. We'll be right back.
The Situation Room, brought to you by American Express. Get travel and dining advice at membersknow.com, an online community exclusively for American Express card members.
Yeah, we can do the neutral. Traffic was a few couple things. Yeah.
Well, please, I'll get this.
Thank you.
Of course.
Was ist das?
Das ist wohl eine Kindergartenkarte.
Auf Fluss.
Good day.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. I think that went well.
Yeah. Let me get this, okay?
If you own your business, own the card that says so. The Gold Card, with rewards to reinvest in your business. American Express Open. Calling all business owners.
$192,186.
$678,477. $356,931.
$1,358,907.
And 42 cents.
I don't think I want to pay this anymore.
Renewin, the only intensive release bilayer tablet for joint care and energy. Layer 1 releases a powerful combination of ingredients to improve joint comfort and joint mobility. Layer 2 releases fast to help boost your energy. Renewin improves joint health and helps you stay active.
Back to school. Here we go again. Come on, hurry up, let's go.
Back to school stress can weaken your body's defenses, so drink Dan Active. It's clinically proven to help strengthen your body's defenses.
Dan Active. First, we ensure that we have found all the oil that is available to us in North America.
Natural gas is probably the cleanest and the most accessible fuel that we have.
I'd love to see more wind power.
I think it would be in their best interest to continue to pursue things like solar energy.
I think biofuels are a viable alternative.
Any business person that is worth their salt is going to diversify as much as they can.
Now, when you buy or lease any new 2009 Volvo, you'll get complimentary factory scheduled maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles. Maintenance that will lower the total cost of ownership and extend the life of your car. It's just one more reason to get a 2009 Volvo S80 luxury sedan and drive away happy. Buy or lease a 2009 S80 and get complimentary factory scheduled maintenance. See your local Volvo retailer for details.
All right, this just coming in. We've just learned that we will be speaking live with Senator Barack Obama here in the Situation Room momentarily. We'll hear firsthand from him where this delicate negotiation stands on this proposed $700 billion bailout. My conversation with Senator Barack Obama, that's coming up momentarily. Stand by for that. And with millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, that is, on the line right now, actually millions of dollars in Mississippi. The University of Mississippi is still hoping that tomorrow night's presidential debate will go forward as plans. They've already spent about $5 million getting ready for this historic moment. Suzanne Malveaux is already in Oxford, Mississippi. We see the arrangements being finalized behind you. Suzanne, Senator McCain yesterday said he's not coming unless there's a deal. Senator Obama says he's going to be there. What's the latest? What's going on?
Well, if I just talked to the Vice Chancellor of University Relations, Gloria Kellum, and she says she just got off the phone with the Debate Commission. They are still recommending to go forward as planned, as if the debate will take place tomorrow. We have also watched as well, Wolf, behind me on the stage here, the advance teams of both Barack Obama and John McCain doing their mic checks, video checks from their candidates' respective podiums. And the host of this debate, Jim Lear from PBS, he is also here with his team doing those type of technical tests. Obviously, there is still a lot of optimism that this is going to take place tomorrow, but there's still a lot of angst from people who are uncertain about what's going to happen.
It was a shock. It was like getting kicked in the stomach to find out that McCain didn't want to have the debate.
The consensus in the hometown of Ole Miss, sheer disbelief.
We were just horrified.
Immediately I says he has already lost a lot of votes that were going to vote for him if he does not come.
At Oxford's Camp for Kids who are into politics, big pride in the debate for this third grader.
Well, because it's in Oxford. It's like where we live.
Then disappointment.
He's going to possibly lose Mississippi's votes. Half of them. Half of them.
You're pretty smart about politics. How'd you learn that?
Comes to me naturally.
Luckily for McCain, Little Ann Morgan's instincts are off. He's expected to win here easily. But at the debate site, hundreds of students, volunteers, and faculty are in limbo.
Well, I was surprised and disappointed, but you immediately go into action.
Gloria Kellum, Vice Chancellor of University Relations, operated as if it was a go.
The commission and the university are not talking about contingency plans. We have a strong belief that tomorrow night this debate will be right here.
But the question today to John McCain from the campus paper, will he show?
We expect to have the debate tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.
That question dominated a news conference with the university chancellor and Mississippi governor, leaving them with very little to say.
I can't think of a bad day to be at Ole Miss.
A local editorial accused McCain of misplacing his Southern manners, where in these parts, manners matter. But some voters are cutting him some slack.
We're in a crisis, man. This man is a leader. He's taking personal responsibility.
He did hurt my feelings yesterday. My feelings were hurt, but I'm still a McCain girl.
So, Wolf, some hurt feelings and obviously a lot of money that's also on the line. Money and pride, more than $5 million the university has invested, and a lot of pride from people here in the community in the state of Mississippi. They want this thing to go on without a hitch, but already there's a lot of nervousness about tomorrow. Wolf?
All right, we'll see what happens. It's up in the air. I think it's fair to say right now, Suzanne, we'll check back with you. By the way, if the debate happens, and once again, that's a very big if right now, given the fact that there is no deal yet on this bailout proposal. You'll of course see it live right here on CNN. Our coverage from the best political team on television. All of our coverage will begin at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Also, remember, we're standing by to interview Senator Barack Obama. We've just been informed we're going to be speaking with him live. That's coming up very soon. We'll get his reaction to what happened over at the White House. My interview with Senator Obama, that's coming up soon. Meanwhile, Governor Sarah Palin has faced criticism for what's being seen by some as her lack of access to the news media. But today, for the first time since being named John McCain's running mate, Governor Palin took questions from some reporters traveling with her campaign, and she actually answered some of those questions. It happened after she toured New York City's Ground Zero.
I agree with the Bush administration that we take the fight to them. We never, again, let them come onto our soil and try to destroy not only our democracy, but communities like the community of New York. Never again. So yes, I do agree with taking the fight to the terrorists and stopping them over there.
Governor Palin is also getting more time to put together a report to the Federal Election Commission disclosing her personal finances. It was originally due on Monday. She now has until next Friday. Meanwhile, the Democratic vice presidential nominee, Senator Joe Biden, he was out on the campaign trail in his home state of Pennsylvania. He was born in Scranton, even though he spent most of his life in Delaware. He sharply accused Senator McCain of flip-flopping on issues facing Americans. Take a listen to this.
You can't be president of the United States of America and lurch so rapidly from one fundamental position to another, seeing sunlight and then seeing nothing but darkness, all in a matter of 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't gain the confidence of a nation, and you can't gain the confidence of the world when, in fact, you are not rooted and know exactly what you think.
Senator Biden speaking earlier. Let's go over to Senator Barack Obama right now. He's joining us live. Senator, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Wolf.
All right, how did it go? How was the meeting over at the White House? We're all anxious to get the word. Is there going to be a deal or no deal?
Well, I think eventually we're going to get a deal. I think that there's still some work that needs to be done. Look, we should not have been in this crisis in the first place. It's a consequence of reckless behavior on Wall Street and regulators being asleep at the switch. But right now, there has to be a sense of urgency on the part of everybody because this is putting jobs at risk, economic growth at risk, small businesses at risk, the financial markets and people's retirement accounts over time potentially at risk. So we've got to move rapidly. I've put forward consistently some core principles that would protect taxpayers, that we have oversight, that we make sure that taxpayers are treated as investors. So if we're laying out potentially $700 billion, that people are going to recoup that money as assets appreciate over time, that we're not using this to bail out CEOs, that we are doing something for the actual homeowner so that they are getting help and we're avoiding these massive foreclosures that are at the root of much of the problem. Now, we've made progress, and Secretary Paulson, who I've talked to every single day this week, as well as Democratic leaders, and I think the Senate Republicans, I think have agreed to these principles as conceptually, and I think we're ready to move forward before John McCain and I even landed here in Washington. All right. Something happened in the intervening hours, and so I think that there's going to have to be some discussions between the President, Secretary Paulson, House Republicans, perhaps Senate Republicans, although they have been, I think, working well with the Senate Democrats to figure out what exactly they want additionally to see to make this thing work.
Senator Obama, I spoke earlier, just a little while ago, with Senator Chris Dodd, the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, and he was in that meeting as well. He suggested that he really didn't understand Senator McCain's position, but he threw out the notion that maybe he is now part of the problem rather than part of the solution. You tend to agree with that assessment based on what you heard yourself from Senator McCain in that room?
Well, Senator McCain spoke briefly. I think he still wants to see something happen. The concern that I have, and one of the concerns that I've had over the last several days, is that when you start injecting presidential politics into delicate negotiations, then you can actually create more problems rather than less. It's amazing how much you can get done when the cameras aren't on and nobody's looking to get credit or allocate blame. And I think that both myself and Senator McCain need to be very careful in terms of how we inject ourselves into this process. What we should be doing is talking about what we expect to do in order to lead the country down the long-term path of economic growth, because families were having trouble even before this Wall Street crisis hit. Unemployment, we just saw the unemployment numbers come out today, and there obviously continues to be concern. Highest jobless claims in 7 years. We've got a continuing deterioration in the housing market. People are worried about rising health care costs. We just had a report today that people's health care deductibles have gone up close to 30% just in the last year. So people are already getting pinched. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important for Senator McCain and I to have a debate tomorrow, partly on foreign policy, but this issue of economic strength at home is absolutely critical, because if we're not strong at home, we're not going to be strong abroad.
About that debate tomorrow night, the first presidential debate, what happens if Senator McCain doesn't show up?
Well, I hope he does, and I'm not going to speculate at this point. I'm going to be staying here in Washington tonight. I'll be monitoring the situation. I've found that I've been able to stay entirely on top of the negotiations around the financial crisis by phone. I talk to Secretary Paulson at least once a day, sometimes twice. I've been in conversations with the congressional leadership constantly. And so my sense is that we can do more than one thing at a time. I think that's part of what's required if you want to be president of the United States, is to be able to deal with difficult situations, but still make your vision clear to the country, and that's part of what this debate process is all about.
Good luck with these negotiations, Senator Obama. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Wolf.
And to our viewers, you're in the Situation Room, happening now, acting on instinct. John McCain says the nation's economic crisis calls for all hands on deck and suspends his campaign. Barack Obama says the race and Friday's debate should stay on course. Who made the right move? Both candidates joined today's unprecedented White House meeting on a government bailout plan only a few weeks away from Election Day. The economy now stands squarely as an issue. The issue. It's issue number one. We'll examine who stands to gain, who stands to lose politically from the downturn. All of this coming up, plus the best political team on television. Lots of news happening today. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. Whether or not you agree with what Senator John McCain did and is doing, there's general agreement on this. It could help or hurt his presidential hopes. It won't be neutral. Let's go to Brian Todd. He's speaking to people who know Senator McCain rather well. A very controversial move he made yesterday, Brian, to suspend his political campaign, if you will, and to postpone that first presidential debate unless a deal on the bailout is achieved. What are you hearing?
Well, Wolf, John McCain's gamble here is astounding, suspending the campaign with 5.5 weeks left in the race. If the timing on a deal in the financial bailout doesn't go his way, he could be seen as reckless, desperate, trying to recapture his pole position in this race. If it turns in his favor, it could be a huge political score. So we tried to gain some insight into how John McCain arrived at this decision. John McCain says he's just tapping into his training.
I'm an old Navy pilot, and I know when a crisis calls for all hands on deck.
McCain's aides say the move to suspend his campaign was made with deliberation after constant talks with experts and party leaders. Others believe this was also bare-knuckle instinct. We spoke to a man who's been in the room when McCain's made decisions like this. He's Roy Fletcher, deputy campaign manager for McCain in 2000. Fletcher wasn't there on Wednesday, but suspects it played out like this.
Walked into a room and said, gentlemen, we're going to suspend the campaign, and we're also going to suspend the debate, and we're going to Washington, and we're going to get this business done, and you guys figure out how to handle it.
Fletcher and other former aides say if there was dissent in the room, McCain probably listened to it, then pressed ahead anyway. They describe him as a man willing to do his research and gather consensus, but then they say he goes purely on his gut, is willing to gamble, but not recklessly. The selection of Sarah Palin, part of that pattern.
He is somebody who does have a tendency to kind of want to shake things up a little bit. And the Palin decision, shook things up because she was an unconventional choice in some respects. And she was, not a choice that, a lot of people had talked about.
Former aides say in making his boldest decisions, McCain is genuinely motivated by moral conviction, putting country before self. CNN analyst David Gergen agrees, but says this move on the financial crisis was not without political calculation.
And he's doing this in part also to rescue his campaign because this a financial meltdown was driving him down in the polls and allowing Barack Obama to go up.
Now, if this move backfires, don't expect a lot of navel-gazing from John McCain. His former aides back him up on a quote from his 2002 book that's called Worth the Fighting For. Here's the quote: "I don't torture myself over decisions. I make them as quickly as I can, quicker than the other fellow if I can. Often my haste is a mistake, but I live with the consequences without complaint," end quote. Wolf, looks like we're going to see about those consequences maybe within a matter of hours.
All right, Brian, good work. Thank you. In the long run, whose response to the current economic crisis was right? Would it be McCain's or Obama's? Let's discuss this and more. Joining us from New York, our senior political analyst, Gloria Borger, also our senior analyst, Jeff Toobin, and here in Washington, Steve Hayes, the senior writer for the Weekly Standard. What do you think about this amazing day, Gloria? Whose instincts were right? Would it be McCain or Obama?
At this point, I'm wondering if John McCain is second-guessing his decision, but as Brian Todd said, he doesn't do a lot of that. I think this has to play out, Wolf, and I think House Republicans now hold John McCain's fate in their hands. And House Republicans, by the way, these conservative Republicans, they don't like John McCain very much. They never have. They opposed him on immigration reform. And they're trying to distance themselves from an unpopular president as well. So they don't like any of the Republicans they're sitting in that negotiating room with.
Steve Hayes, you know John McCain. You've spoken to him on many occasions. What do you think he's going to do? Vote with the president, with the Democrats by and large, or go with those House Republicans, those conservatives in the House who are fiercely opposed to any bailout?
Well, it's a good question. Obviously, if I knew the answer, I'd be very smart and probably very wealthy. I think, you know, one of the things that he's doing is really trying to make himself sort of a proxy for House Republicans. Now, that doesn't mean that he agrees with everything that they're saying, but I think he's trying to take their complaints to this negotiating table, sit down with people and say, look, we don't want this bill larded up. We don't want Democrats to add infrastructure spending. We don't want a slush fund for housing advocacy groups. I think we're likely to hear him give voice to these objections from House Republicans. And as we were talking about 24 hours ago, at the very least, what he's done is sort of press pause, which makes him a popular guy with the House Republicans who are at the center of this dispute.
Yeah, what do you think, Jeff?
Well, can I just quarrel with the premise of this? Who says he suspended his campaign? He didn't suspend his campaign. He's been campaigning all day. He gave a speech in New York. He's giving interviews all night. He's raising money. His surrogates are attacking Barack Obama. I think this is posturing of being apolitical, and frankly, I think we're being kind of gullible and falling for it. He didn't stop his campaign. He's campaigning. Now, whether it's
I guess the argument is that he didn't go out to a rally or a town hall meeting today. He addressed the Clinton Global Initiative in New York. Then he came to Washington for meetings on the Hill, went over to the White House, and is now doing some television interviews.
He's pulled his ads down, too, Wolf.
Well, no, he didn't pull his ads down. His ads have been on. And he's done exactly what Obama has done all day. And Obama admits that he's campaigning. It's the middle of the campaign. I don't see why we should treat what he's doing as anything different from what Obama's doing.
No, let Steve weigh in on that. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, we should treat it differently because it is differently. There were reports this morning that some of the ads were still running. You can't snap your fingers and get these ads to come down, but I think they've done pretty close to that, and I think these ads have been largely taken off the air thus far.
But Steve, this is not campaigning what he's doing?
No, of course it is, but it's just the same thing as when Barack Obama said yesterday, look, we don't want to inject presidential politics into these discussions. All the discussions have been about presidential politics this entire time. So, of course, both sides are playing politics.
The question is what progress has been made by putting Barack Obama at one end of the table and John McCain at the other end of the table in what, you know, our sources are telling us was a pretty tense meeting at the White House. And, the point is, I don't think much progress was made today. And I think McCain heard the concerns of those House Republicans. They had been making those concerns known all week long, including to the vice president. So I don't really see how this has moved the ball forward at all.
Jeff,
now, many times in Washington, things fall apart before they come together, so we don't know.
We don't know. You're right. Jeff, you just heard Senator Obama tell me in our interview that he's planning on going to that first debate tomorrow night in Mississippi, and he hopes Senator McCain will show up as well. What do you think?
I think McCain will be there. I think it would be very embarrassing. I think it would he would look ridiculous if he didn't show up. and he'd look like a chicken. And that's something John McCain can't stand to be seen as. And I think he'll be there, and I think we'll have a debate.
And we heard the governor, Steve, Haley Barbour, a former chairman of the Republican National Committee, earlier today says he wants that debate to go forward. He's a very solid conservative Republican, as you know. So there is pressure on Senator McCain, even if there's no deal, to take a few hours tomorrow night, fly out to Oxford, Mississippi, do the debate, and then come back to Washington, get ready for more negotiations.
Well, I think Haley Barbour's protecting his parochial interests there as governor of Mississippi. One would expect him to say that. But I think it's preposterous to suggest that John McCain would be seen as a chicken if he doesn't go tomorrow night. He was thundering for the entire summer about having a debate a week. His campaign today, in conversations I had with people, said they'd be happy to have more debates, to add debates to the 3 that are already scheduled between the campaigns. I mean, it's